Welcome, everybody. I'd like to call the council meeting to order.
This meeting will also be conducted by audio and video conference without the requirement of a physically present quorum of the Rock Island City Council due to the disaster declaration issued by Governor Pritzker. Because of this order related to COVID-19 health concerns affecting the state and the city, the mayor has determined that an in-person meeting at City Hall with all participants may not be practical or prudent. Alderpersons and staff may not all be physically present at City Hall due to the disaster, and physical attendance at City Hall may be limited. To participate remotely during the public comment or public hearing portion of the meeting, please join by phone at 1-470-285-2051, PIN 929-905-404#.
Thank you very much. Roll call.
Alderperson Robinson.
Present.
Hurt.
Here.
Gilbert.
Present.
Swanson.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
Poulos.
Here.
Healy.
Here.
Mayor Jones.
Here. Thank you. Could we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Remain standing for a moment of silence, please.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll take that. Start out with number one item, item to bring up is we are removing item 22, executive session off. It's been removed from the agenda. Item 22 has been removed. Now, second of all, due to conversation with the SSA and everything else and running over, if the council, if somebody could make a motion, we could take item number 21, which is other business, and move it up in the agenda to right after item 15. There's just a few basic items that we'd like to get out of the way. We have some people from out of town also, and that way then we can continue the discussion with SSA with the other business, and then after that, finish.
I would make a motion that we move item 21 up in the agenda to just after item number 13.
15.
15.
I second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? Roll call on that, please.
Alderperson Gilbert.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Poulos.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Hurt.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Try to keep everybody, accommodate everybody in their time schedules. So we will move through this. We're on item number 7. 6, excuse me. I can't keep track of my own real quick. The ones that have signed up for, public comment are in regards to the SSA. And so if it's okay with them, we'll hold that over, until we do the, other business, and they can speak at that time. So, thank you. Item number 7. We'll come back to item 6. Item number 7.
Minutes from the March 2nd, 2022 City Council closed session.
Motion to approve the closed session minutes.
Second.
Move to second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Alderperson Gilbert.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Poulos.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Hurt.
Aye.
Item number 8.
Minutes from the July 11th, 2022 City Council closed session.
Move to approve the closed session minutes. Second.
Move to second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Alderperson Gilbert.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Poulos.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Hurt.
Aye.
Item number 9.
Minutes from the July 11th, 2022 study session and city council meeting.
Move to approve the minutes as printed.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Alderperson Gilbert.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Hurt.
Aye.
Item number 10, Rock Island update. It's fairly short, so this will make it quick. Tell on Your Neighbor Awards. Each resident of Rock Island are encouraged to tell on your neighbor by nominating the yards in their neighborhood that they find to be the most appealing or most improved. Nominations can be made through August 5th, 2022. Digital photos of the nominated yards are required. Kathy Douglas, you can call Kathleen Douglas at 309-732-2905 for nomination information. The Martin Luther King Jr. Community Center will host its 35th Annual Family Fun Day on Saturday, August 27th, 2022. The fun starts at 10 a.m. with a parade on 9th Street, followed by Family Fun Day full of activities. The center is now accepting applications for food and merchant vendors, informational booths, and parade participants. For more information, you can visit their website. Quick side note, I've agreed to be in a dunk tank. So anybody that wishes to dunk me, I don't know the time yet, but you can come down there. And I'll challenge anybody in the city council that wants to be in the dunk tank to do that. But I have already committed, should be committed. I mean,
Sucker.
Can I wear my dry suit?
that's exactly. All right. Item number 11.
Proclamation declaring July 26, 2022 as Americans with Disabilities Act Awareness Day. Whereas on July 26, 1990, President George H.W. Bush signed into law the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, to ensure the civil rights of people with disabilities. This legislation established a clear and comprehensive national mandate for the elimination of discrimination against individuals with disabilities, and whereas the City of Rock Island affirms the principles of equality and inclusion for persons with disabilities as set forth for the state of Illinois and embodied in the ADA, the laws of our state and ordinances of our city. And whereas numerous organizations in the City of Rock Island and the state of Illinois work with constituents and communities to bring forth the promise of hope and freedom that is envisioned by the passage of the ADA. And whereas on July 26, 2022, the City of Rock Island will celebrate this 32nd anniversary and recognize the progress that has been made by reaffirming the principles of equality and inclusion and recommitting our efforts to reach full ADA compliance.
Now therefore, I, Mike Tomes, Mayor of the City of Rock Island, do hereby proclaim that July 26, 2022, as Americans with Disability Act Awareness Day in our city. Would Herschel like to say anything, or? Item number 12.
Proclamation declaring Tuesday, August 2nd, 2022 as National Night Out in the City of Rock Island. Whereas the National Association of Town Watch, NATW, and locally the Community Caring Conference are sponsoring a unique nationwide crime, drug, and violence prevention program on Tuesday, August 2nd, 2022, entitled National Night Out. And whereas the 39th Annual National Night Out provides a unique opportunity for the city of Rock Island to join forces with thousands of other communities across the country in promoting cooperative police community crime prevention efforts. And whereas the city of Rock Island Police Department plays a vital role in assisting joint crime, drug, and violence prevention efforts in Rock Island and is supporting National Night Out 2022 locally. And whereas it is essential that all citizens of Rock Island be aware of the importance of crime prevention programs and the impact that their participation can have on reducing crime, drugs, and violence in Rock Island. And whereas police community partnerships, neighborhood safety, awareness, and cooperation are important themes of the National Night Out program.
Now therefore, I, Mike Tomes, Mayor of the City of Rock Island, Illinois, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, August 2nd, 2022 as National Night Out in the City of Rock Island and call upon all our citizens to join the Community Caring Conference, the Rock Island Police Department, the Rock Island Park and Recreation Department, and the National Association of Town Watch in supporting this 39th Annual Night Out. So is Ashley, yep, there. He? Would you like to speak?
Just a few thank yous.
You bet. We'll do the photo, and then you can say whatever you wish. Microphone's yours.
Just real quick, just to respect time constraints. My name is Ashley Harris. I'm with the Rock Island Community Care Conference, and I want to give thanks to the City Council, thanks to the community, special thanks to the mayor for the dunk tank thing. I would like to encourage everyone to come out and take as many shots at him as you would like. I'm sure you would appreciate it a lot. And you know, on behalf of the Community Care Conference, like I said, I just graciously accept this, and I just want to let everyone know that I appreciate your unwavering support. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item 13. We need to,
It's a public hearing one.
what's that?
It's a public hearing for the.
It's a public hearing. We need to close the regular, yep, I'd like to,
And then reopen for
That's right.
a public hearing, if that's.
Languages.
yeah, it's exactly. So I'd like to close the regular meeting and open up a public hearing in regards to the liquor license and wavering, whether to waive the signature requirements for the Bayside Bistro. And so now I will open a public hearing. Is there anybody that would like to speak for or opposed in this case for Bayside Bistro to have a liquor, waive the signature requirements? Anybody opposed? You don't oppose? And if you wish to speak for it, or you can. Come on up. You've worked hard for this.
Hi, everybody. We are so excited to be here in the city of Rock Island as Bayside Bistro owners, Daryl and Letitia Howlett. We're excited about what we have to bring to the city of Rock Island, and we want to say that a lot of our customers have been coming over from Davenport and is wondering when are we going to get our business back over in Davenport, and so they're pretty excited about us being over here because we have much more space. So we're looking forward to offering our dinner menu and expanding our hours just a smidget to allow until 9 o'clock for people to come and eat a little bit later and enjoy a nice glass of wine with their dinner menu options. So thanks for the opportunity and thanks for having us here in Rock Island, and we were grateful to be able to purchase the building.
Thank you for your commitment. It's great food. Been there. Anybody else wish to speak? If not, I'm going to close the public hearing and reopen the public. What?
The council may reopen the.
Reopen the normal,
council.
and then we need a motion. So I need a motion
To,
to waive,
so I make a motion,
it's worded
Make-
different.
right, the word is weird.
Yeah.
So I make a motion to the mayor liquor commissioner to waive the signature requirement as requested and approve the liquor license.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Alderperson Gilbert.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Hurt.
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 14.
Thank you.
We have, once again, we have a public hearing, so I will close the regular meeting and open up a public hearing in regards to the amended HUD CDBG Program 2021 Annual Action Plan. Is there anybody who wishes to speak about the HUD CDBG plan? Anybody there virtually? I'm not seeing anybody who wishes to speak in regards to this, so I will close the public hearing and reopen the regular meeting and entertain a motion.
Move to accept and approve the program year 2021 annual action plan as recommended.
Second.
Been moved and second. Any discussion?
Should that be 2021 or 2022? Because the memo says 2022.
You're right.
And, yeah,
I,
okay?
Should be
but
20.
can I amend just amend the
Yes.
motion?
Would amend your
Dave?
motion, and then we have a
To
second.
I will withdraw my second.
accept and approve the program year 2022 annual action plan as recommended.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderperson Gilbert.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Hurt.
Aye.
Thank you. Item 15.
Presentation of the firefighter pensions fund and police pension fund preliminary actuarial valuation results for January 1, 2022, and assumption discussion.
Right, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right, so the Police and Firefighters Pension Fund 2022 valuation results will be presented by Nick Meggos, Meggos. He is a lead consultant in Nyhart's actuarial pension plan practice, which focuses on helping clients with plan sustainability and employee retirement readiness. He has over 22 years of experience as an actuary, which allows him to bring perspective and clarity to pension plan management for both public and private plans. Nick applies his expertise in communication of actuarial concepts and results to elevate Nyhart's current client relationships and provides leadership for Nyhart's business development efforts. He is a fellow of the Conference of Consulting Actuaries and an enrolled actuary. He has earned his bachelor's degree in mathematics and economics from Bradley University. So at this time, I'm going to hand it over to Nick.
Good evening. I'm not really used to that kind of introduction before a presentation. Nonetheless, appreciate the time. This is not a full-blown actuarial report that you have in front of you. We can go ahead and go to page 3. The certification is not really necessary to talk about. What we want to talk about, that every year we do evaluation, and our job when we're doing evaluation is to look at where the funds are. There's two things that happen over the course of the year. The demographics of the plan can change, and then also what's happened on the asset side. When you look at a 1/1/2022 measurement date or 12/31, pick your favorite date there, a lot's changed since then, but that's when your plan is annually measured. And so the numbers tonight are representative of where assets and liabilities of the plan were as of that date. And so when we compare those numbers, the assets represent what was in the plan, but also there's some smoothing of gains and losses, so it's not exactly what was in the trust as of that date. And we compare that to a liability number. And liabilities are representative of how much money do you need today to make good on any benefits that have been earned as of that date in the future. And based on that, we get things like funded percentage and contributions, and we'll talk about that. Page 3 is just a quick glimpse of the history of the contribution as well as the funded ratio for the plan. And what you'll notice here is that the contributions consistently have gone up in the time frame of 2017 through 2021. And in all frankness, they will continue to go up. And we'll talk about that a little bit. The funded percentage, however, has not continually went up. And there's some reasoning there, and we can talk about that as well. Eventually, we believe that will turn for the better, not just because of asset performance, but because of the structure of how contributions are calculated and put into the plan. In Illinois, there is a, reasoning as to how the plan is funded, and the target is essentially by law getting the plans 90% funded by the end of fiscal year 2040, which will be 12/31 of 2040 for the city of Rock Island. What we see on page 4, while typically the things that we talk about when we talk about your update and your contribution is more centered around what's happened with the demographics of the plan as well as what's happened on the asset side. While those things have an impact here, I think a lot of the discussion that we planned on presenting tonight was more about assumptions. Assumptions are updated typically about on an every 5-year cycle. You've been actually moving some of your assumptions along the way, but there was a significant change in the last year that we have to take notice of, and that is around the consolidation of the police and fire plans across the state. On the fire side, most of the assets are already, if not all the assets, are moved into the consolidated plan. The police side is a little bit further behind on the schedule, but that is in process right now. Many plans are putting their plan money into the consolidated plan. As part of that consolidation, there was an experience study done by the new consolidated plans actuary for both plans. And in that experience study, what they tried to do was establish updated assumptions that to best calculate liabilities. And they looked at things like mortality, retirement, when people might quit prior to being eligible for retirement, when they might become disabled, just to name a few. And most of those assumptions did not change much from the prior study that was done by the Department of Insurance in 2017. I think the most impactful change, if I had to pick two, besides the two that I'm going to talk about here, the most impactful changes with regards to demographics were mortality, which took note of the most recent study done by the Society of Actuaries that was specific to public safety pension participants. And that change really resulted in some longer lifetimes, and that increases liabilities. I think the other one that probably was slightly of note was retirement. The rate at which people retire was accelerated slightly. What we've seen anecdotally, especially in the last 5 years, is that when people cross over their eligibility, the Tier 1 participants, when they get to 50 and they have 20 years, many of them are retiring a little faster than what we've assumed in the past. And that was one of the assumptions that was adjusted by the consolidated plan studies on both sides, both pension and fire. But the other assumption that gets probably the most note is what were they going to assume for asset returns moving forward. One of the great selling points of the consolidated approach was that there would be better returns. And while that is an obvious conclusion for what we call category 1, 2, 3, and 4 plans, those plans in the state that had less than $10 million and had fairly restrictive ability to put money in equities, this clearly is going to help them. For plans that are larger and have more than $10 million, what are categorized as category 4 plans, less clear. And so there was a lot of interest, especially for the larger plans, what this assumption would be. The 2017 study suggested for category 4 plans like Rock Island that have more than $10 million, the assumption was 6.5. You have been using something higher than that in the past, like many municipalities, many larger municipalities, frankly because that study was based on not a full utilization of the amount of equity exposure that plans could have. Now, the fire plan experience study recommended all their assumptions, including this, and their recommendation on this assumption was 7.125. Okay, slightly higher than what you used last year. Those assumptions, not only that assumption, but everything else was approved. On the police side, there was a similar study done a couple months later Every assumption has been approved with the exception of the asset return assumption. The recommendation from the actuary was 675. There is a split on the board as to what should be correct. I would say half of the board, or a little less than half, think 7 is right, and slightly more than half of the board, I think it's a 5-4 split, and 6 votes are needed, think 675 is right. So, we don't have that final information, but we're going to show you some numbers at 7125 and 675. The other assumption that is significantly impactful for the contribution calculation is a payroll growth assumption, and while that is indicative of thinking of how people's salary grows, it's really thinking of how does the overall payroll for the municipality, for the fire and police plans grow. And we use that assumption. If you see page 5, your contribution is made up of 2 pieces. The cost of benefits being earned in the current year for your active employees getting another year of service, maybe for their pay increasing. The other component is you're making a payment on how much unfunded accrued liability you have, the gap between your assets today and your liabilities earned to date. The higher that payroll growth assumption, the lower your contribution is today. That's represented, that blue line, this is an example. It's not specific to your plan, but just an example to talk about this just briefly. If you had $100 million and you were trying to fund that over 15 years, you would start out with a payment, if you're assuming 3.5% of closer to 8, a little over 8, and ending the last year over 13. If you assume 2, a little above 9, and then ending at 12. This is just a function, frankly, of taking a payment or an outstanding amount, which in this case is our unfunded liability, and paying in a non-level way, less today, more in the future. Hopefully somewhat in line with what you think your payroll is going to grow at. If we took that same loan and we were going to pay 15 equal payments, just like you would typically get a mortgage, that payment would be a little over $10 million. It would just be the same every year. The payroll growth assumption in the 2017 study for the DOI and what you used last year was 3.5%. This year, in the consolidated experience studies, for fire, the recommendation was 2.75, for police was 3. They were recommending lowering that, which, by the way, does put more pressure on the contribution calculation, okay? All right, a lot of background. Let's get to some numbers on page 6, and we'll tackle the fire plan first. If you look at page 6, we have representation of the 2021 valuation. The recommended contribution at that point was $4,079,000, $79,988. That is really the greater of the 2 different approaches below. And the only difference between the 2 different approaches, the funding policy contribution and the tax levy requirement, is a cost method. Typically, you do the entry age normal approach, and then you compare it to the projected unit credit approach that's required by law. Whichever one's greater, that's what you've been doing in the past. To the right of last year, we have a representation of 3 different recommended contributions for comparison's sake. The first one is keeping all the assumptions the exact same as last year. And in that case, with the new data, the new assets, the 4.079 would grow to 4.243. Okay, clearly an increase. We expect that, frankly, over time. Now, the next column is really, if we take the assumptions from the experience study done by the Consolidated Fire Plan and we apply them to your data as of 1/1 of 2022, we're not required to do that, but if we did that, how much different would the contribution be? We think that's important for every municipality to understand, frankly. That contribution would grow all the way to $4.6 million, specifically $4,635,168. Okay, that is a significant, that's a higher number than just using last year's assumptions, as well as a significant increase from last year's number. The last column, which we've discussed with the finance department, is taking almost all of the consolidated assumptions, leaving the 7.125 at 7, leaving that unchanged, and leaving the payroll growth assumption unchanged. keep in mind that consolidated assumptions, changes that will impact contributions, they are going to be, I'll say, smoothed in over 3 years. But we went ahead and calculated as if they were all in place today. That's a big increase. We think an in-between solution is picking up assumptions fully, other than the payroll growth assumption, and actually not taking the full advantage of the 7.125 and just staying at 7. We're suggesting that to have consistency between the police plan and the fire plan, because we're going to show things at 7 on the next page. But that approach would yield a recommended contribution of $4.5 million, really a little over $400,000 increase than last year's contribution as recommended. I will pause there before talking about the police plan and ask if there's any questions about the fire plan. Okay. Turning to the police fund, similar approach here. Last year's contribution, as recommended, was $4.44 million. Using the same assumptions, not quite as big of an increase there, just given some things on the asset and liability side, a slight increase of about $44,000 to $4.485 million. Okay. If we took the consolidated plan and based it on the recommended interest or asset return assumption as recommended by the actuary, but not agreed upon yet at 675, that 4.485 number would go to $5,093,000, a significant increase. Changing everything but the 675 and leaving the 7 alone, and also making the payroll growth assumption unchanged at 3.5, that resulting contribution is $4.702 million. Still a significant increase from last year's contribution, but not full recognition of a 675 kind of approach, and frankly a payroll growth assumption of 3%. These things are changing over time, and they will continue to increase. In fact, I mentioned, in a conversation here with the finance department that you might want to consider a projection to better understand where these numbers are going under the consolidated plan. That's very simple for us to do, just to understand where those, the numbers are scheduled to increase. That's the way the structure, the 90% by 2040 is built. They will increase significantly over time. When some of our clients see those projections, they decide to put more in today because they can't handle the increases that are projected to happen between especially 2035 and 2040. That's not to scare you, it's just the reality of the law as it's currently written. In all frankness, when you look at that picture, it seems difficult to believe that there will not be consideration of a change in that 2040 date. And very likely could be stretched out, not just because of the financial pressure that it puts on municipalities in our state, but also because when you see what the projected contribution is on the other side of 2040, it's a significant decrease. I call it a cliff. And when you look at that, when you think about the ramp combined with that drop off, that combination, it just doesn't make sense for our municipalities. That's a little soapbox for me. I'll step down off of that and ask for any questions.
I have a few.
Yes, sir.
Do you know what the fire fund, the consolidated fire fund, what returns they've had for the first quarter of 2022?
I don't know what they are for 2022, but
the first quarter, though, do you know what they have this year?
No, I don't. But I will say this. I do know that at one point last month, the S&P 500 was down almost 24%. I know that as of today, it was between 17 and 18% down. I'm not trying to represent that the fire fund nor the police fund would have all of their money in the equity markets, but they'll have a great deal of their money in the equity markets. For a lot of clients, I would say that, if we looked at the first, not just the first quarter, but the first half of the year, many clients were down between 10 and 15%.
And you're aware that IMRF has a 7.25%, while the Illinois State Retirement System is at 6.75. The teachers is at 7, and the State University Retirement System at 6.5. And then there are two other actuarial firms, not unlike your own, that follow the same criteria. And I commend you for your work on this. But they are showing that they're using different assumptions.
Yep.
3.5% salary increase, I think, is unreasonable based upon what we've seen in our contracts. Secondly is with the IMRF, if, let's say, the board, and I can't vote on it,
Yeah, I
but I
understand.
will make my comments known and I'll let the council members vote as they choose, that if we were to say 7% is doable, net of all fees, not just what the market will bring in, but what our investment costs are, what our administrative costs are, you're going to be underfunded. Let's say we don't make that 7%. Let's say we hit 5%. And I would be happy if we hit 5% because the way the issues are going so far, that would be a good thing to see, but be that as it may. If we hit 5%, then there's that 2% difference that, just like IMRF, the city is going to be billed for that difference in the income. And if we haven't budgeted for that, how are we going to rationalize to our citizens, hey, we owe another $1 million. Where are we going to get that from? If we plan ahead and we don't kick the can down the road, and I'm sorry to say, but in the years past, last three councils have not done that. They have taken a responsible view of saying, okay, we know that we underfunded for several years, and now we are going to start bringing that fund down. We'll start at 7, and then we'll go, what was it, 10 basis points? It wasn't very much for every year to try to narrow that gap so that we're not underfunded. Would I hope that the consolidated fund would just blow those numbers out of the water? I would, but it's too early to tell that right now, and I'm afraid to kick the can down the road because I have a fiduciary responsibility for two hats.
Sure.
One for the Consolidated Pension Fund,
Yep.
and one for the City of Rock Island.
Sure.
And both of those hats come together when, if we don't take care of our home payment now, that balloon payment's going to come, and will we be able to pay it down the road? And will we be able to tell our citizens, hey, we knew that it really wasn't, it was a number that was accepted by some, and if you look at the different actuarial firms, it's about a 50-50 split as to those that are at 7% plus and those that are.
So let me say this. I would prefer for people to use a lower payroll growth assumption, use 6.5, and then if it was better than that, it was just good news. But it's that balance between wearing the two hats and the significant increase on the financial impact. The other thing that's a little difficult is when the consolidated plans that have spent a lot of money are recommending on the fire side 7125, we really would probably prefer to keep lowering it, but we're trying to balance continuing to lower that, what the consolidated plan is saying on the fire side, and also some pretty significant increases on other assumptions, like mortality, like retirement. But I cannot deny that if I graphed this, taking this approach, there is going to be significant increases. And I think that the choice for every municipality in Illinois is how much can we take on today so that we don't have a balloon in that payment in the future. It's a difficult balancing act. It's hard for me to sit here and say 7 is a conservative assumption. I wouldn't say that, okay? But when a consolidated plan for the entire state, some of them are saying 7. The IMRF that's held as the gold standard, and frankly, the reason that the consolidated plan was, this is what we want the consolidated plan to be, and they're saying 7.25, I don't think it's out of bounds. But I do think that, there will be more to pay in the future. So I appreciate your perspective for sure.
Unfortunately, the consolidated plans got on the bus, and the bus got stalled on the railroad tracks, and here comes the train. So,
MRF is funded at 98%.
Right.
well, that's because if they did not make their actuarial assumptions, IMRF came back to the city and said, by the way, you owe us the
Right,
difference
exactly.
between the 6.5% and the 7%, which, and again, I don't know, Linda, do you know those numbers by any chance? What the difference between the 6.5% and 7%? So what would our bill be if we?
Well, I mean, to take your 5 and 7 example, if you're talking about what we have on the screen right now, you have $100 million. If you underperform by 2%, that's $2 million. I don't know that the IMF sends that bill instantaneously. I don't think I struggle with that a little bit.
It might be, as you said earlier, it might be a 3-year plan, but if it's a 3-year plan, then we owe $1 million this year, and then $1.5 million next year, and then $2 million the next year. That it's like we're paying interest on our bill, or our house payment
Right.
is getting higher and higher and higher. And again,
Unless there's a good year.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
and unless there's a
There's
good
a
year
good
that
year in that
balances
3 years,
that,
then you don't.
balances that out. And that's why you use asset smoothing, frankly, to not get overexcited when you have a bad year or a good year, and not get, feel horrible when you have a bad year. But I can't deny that there's a bad return, but I don't think we can cherry pick 3 months, 6 months and say that that's why 7% or 6.75 is more appropriate, because there's not too many times that we've had a 20% move in the S&P 500 in less than a 6-month time frame.
well, my concern is that Rock Island had made the move towards getting that unfunded liability reduced. And now it looks like we're looking to change that corner and go back the other way. And yes, I know times are hard, but I don't want to have to come back to my constituents and say, oh, by the way, I knew it wasn't likely, but, well, by the way, I didn't vote for it anyway, so you can't blame me. No, I can't do that in good conscience. And with no disrespect to you, because I know you're a very fine firm, you have a very good reputation. I have some sincere concerns, both for where we are and where we're going.
Yep. I think those are fair comments.
Any other thoughts on your presentation?
Oh.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, just in the nutshell, so what recommendations are you making to us? What amounts are you recommending we try and fund for next year? Police and
I
fire.
think the last column on pages 7 and 6,
So
or 6 and 7, excuse me.
4.5 million for fire and 4.7 million
Yep.
for police.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
By the way, full disclosure, I sit on that board pro bono.
You're not part of the fees.
So for a total of approximately 9.2 million,
Right.
just in pension payments for police and fire, okay.
And I think that what we have to remember when I hear that, I want to be clear on something. That's not to pay for benefits that are being earned this year. If you look at the police plan, for instance, that's up there, the recommended contribution in that last column is 4.7 million, and that's the middle part below. If you look at that, I want everybody to be clear on what makes that up. Do you see the 1.124176? That's the cost of benefits for the year. Keep in mind that the police officers in Rock Island, they offset that by over $500,000 of their own money, okay? That means that the total benefits that people are earning this year cost Rock Island $600,000. The lion's share of the payment is about the difference that's been created from things that have happened in the past. That's making a big payment on the 64 or almost 65 million of unfunded liability. I just think that's, sometimes people use the contribution as an interchangeable representation of what somebody's pension, the current police officer's pension plan costs. So.
Any other questions? Not hearing any.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have safe travels.
All right. We are now at item 21, which is other business. And we will then pick up that other business in talking about the SSA. Jack, Aaron, whoever would like to come up. I think the.
You want public comment
Oh,
first?
absolutely, yep, I do have public comment, and I apologize. So get it. George Kraus. George, yep. We have 3 people that signed up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Originally, I hadn't wanted to speak, partially due to the fact I've been up probably about 36 hours at this point, because I work full-time and I go to school full-time. I am that hypothetical resident that I've kept hearing about throughout the previous meeting, so I figured that perhaps my input might be welcomed. Maybe not, I don't know. But the way that I look at it, and to give you a little bit of clarity about who I am, because obviously you don't know me, I'm George Kraus. I live over there in the Clipper condos, work on Rock Island Arsenal, been a public servant for a hot minute. Sorry, like I said, I've been up 36 hours or so. So technically I own 4 parcels. One of them is tax exempt. That is due to a disabled veteran status. I'd like to think that I'm not a freeloader for that, since the state of Illinois decided that one. So my other 3 parcels, I would be contributing to this SSA. I look at it as an investment. If there's one thing I know, this downtown needs investment. Needs it quite a bit. I'm willing to put my money into that because I see a lot of benefit. We have the bones of a world-class city here. I mean that, I'm not blowing smoke at you. We have the bones for an absolutely outstanding city. But we need clear guidance, investment, and diligence. And I appreciate some of the comments from the council here about the due diligence. From one public servant to another, and I don't mean this as an insult or anything, but there comes a time when you have to say, we don't have the manpower, we don't have the resources. In some cases, we don't have the core competencies on board to make our visions happen. I've said that to my bosses before plenty of times. They didn't like hearing it at the time, but that's the professional obligation of candor for you. I have more faith and confidence in the proposed public-private partnership than I do in the city council trying to solve these problems on its own. That's my impression, having lived here since 2019. In terms of safety, and a lot of people get tired of hearing me say it over and over again, this is the second safest out of the Quad Cities statistically. So what we're dealing with is a lot more nuisance behavior downtown. And I can attest, sometimes there's nuisance behavior around the area where I live. I don't call 911, I call the non-emergency line because it's really not an emergency. I consider emergencies things like gunfire. So I will sometimes take it upon myself to highly encourage some of those individuals to move on. That's not something I as a citizen should have to take on. That's the job of the city. That's something that we should be able to have some form or mechanism for the city to be able to enact. I think some of these things, I think it's a great question to talk about liability and all those other things. Those are important points. But we're also not talking about, having these folks apprehend armed criminals. That's not what we're talking about. And for the alder person who mentioned having a higher rate for vacant businesses, I'm all for it. I'd love to see more businesses down here. I like putting my money where my city is. I actually will go to Family Dollar on 11th Street or the Attic downtown rather than driving to Walmart. That's the way I work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff Lamb.
He made his public comment already.
Oh, did he? Okay, sorry. All right, then we got Tom Norman.
My name is Tom Norman. I've been a property owner here in Rock Island since 1984. I have invested a substantial amount of money in the building that I own, which is between the parking lot and Ribco, housing the daiquiri factory and the arena, and I have Norman Apartments upstairs. We completely rehabbed the upstairs of that building with the help of the city of Rock Island and some grant money, forgivable loans, and we appreciate that. But I've been around since 1984. I've seen the ups and the downs of the district, and I've never seen it as bad as it is now. I don't think there's anybody sitting up here on this council that doesn't believe that we need to make some improvements in downtown Rock Island. I've lost tenants, I've lost business owners because of the circumstances in downtown Rock Island. I understand your concern about transparency. I understand your concerns about everybody being notified and everybody being informed about what's going on. But for us people that have a vested interest down here, it's time to do something positive. We need to get this downtown district straightened out. I understand all your semantics and all that other stuff. I'm not emotionally involved in this. I'm a businessman, and I'm concerned about return on my investment. And it's not happening, and it's going down. And I just want whatever we need to do to get this accomplished. I think the SSA is a vehicle that we can utilize to accomplish what we need to accomplish down here. I know that nobody wants to hear about increased taxes, but my God, 1.15? I think the assessed value on my building is something like 52, 54. That's like $500. It's not a whole lot of money. I'm not going to increase people's rent because of the increased tax thing. I mean, it's minimal. So I don't know any landlord that's going to increase the rent because their taxes go up 1.15%. It's just not reasonable. But anyway, I just want to see whatever we need to do to get this thing rolling. We don't have a lot of time. It's already been 2 or 3 years, and we're losing money. I've lost over $70,000, $80,000 just in rent in a couple years. And that's 1 year because we couldn't do anything to get people evicted that weren't paying rent. And my tenants weren't paying rent. The bars were not paying anything, and we couldn't evict them. So we lost a heck of a lot of money. We don't have a whole lot of time. I'd just like to see this thing get rolling. There's plenty of opportunity, I think. There's, 30 or 60 days for people to complain or say whatever they want to say about this, the whole project. So there's ample time. We just need to get moving, and that's what I'd like to see happen. I know there's been a lot of politics and bickering going on down here about where money's getting spent and money's getting moved around and all this kind of thing. Let's get this thing rolling and get the district back the way it used to be. And I'm a proud owner of a property down here, and I want to still be a proud owner of a property down here, and I don't want to have to move out like my tenants are doing and the businesses are doing. I've already lost the daiquiri factory, the arena's gone. I've had people that, I've lowered their rent to try to keep people staying down here because they don't feel safe. So, you know, that's just my view on things, and I appreciate your time, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now, if we want to get the group that was up here to be able to answer questions from the city council. And it was Nicole and Aaron and Jack, John. All right. I think, Judith, we left off,
Bill?
Just want to make a real quick comment.
Yeah.
Tom was a recipient of one of those mailers. We were not able to sit down in person for a meeting. He received certified mail, gave me a call, as many other property owners have. We were able to talk through any list of questions that he had, any concerns about the downtown issues, grievances, and it resulted in Tom's speech that he just gave. So just wanted to provide a little anecdote.
Bill, do you want to start it off?
Judith can.
Oh, okay.
Getting back to the map, and the questions I have are for Jack and the chamber, because that's who we have our contract with. So, other than Modern Woodman and their 8 properties, were there any other parcels left out of the downtown, or left out of the map that are downtown? Because there's there's a little cutout thing here. What properties are those? Thank you.
Where exactly? I apologize.
It's down by 20th Street and 2nd Avenue.
That is Modern Women's Print Mailing and Distribution Center.
Okay, so all of those properties in that cutout are all Modern Woodman's properties?
Yes, I believe so.
Are there any other properties in there?
Not taxable parcels, to my knowledge.
Is there a building in that section that's for sale?
The Girl Scouts building? Is that in there? Or
No,
is
the
that
Girl Scouts building is not included in that.
Okay.
Former Girl Scouts building that is up for sale.
So, I have a lot of questions, so I'm having to read through these. So, I think when we were finishing up, so there have been no public meetings held by the steering committee, correct?
Yeah, I think they already answered that as no.
All right, so, I guess, so a lot of my questions have to do with the process. So when I look back and read through all the meeting notes, so in the first 90 days, you contacted 10 property owners, but then it wasn't until 10 months later, you had a total of 12 property owners' signatures. And again, I hope you'll provide us with the detailed information, either in a spreadsheet, database, some way, all the parcels, who you contacted, how you contacted them, what were their concerns, whether they're in support or favor, neutral, or don't know yet. Okay. Do you know how many businesses there are in the proposed taxing district who rent rather than own the property where their business is located?
No, it's a great question. I don't have that data. However, if we do stand up this place management organization, part of our work is to collect baseline data on the storefronts that are available. And within that process, it's feasible to also, based on the data that we have, to dig in a little deeper and see what that makeup is.
Remember, the goal was to talk to the property owners,
Right,
not the renters.
I understand that, yes.
And many double as both, included on that list. So Stecker Graphics, Skeleton Key, Skellington Manor, the Law Center, right? It's property owners, individuals who own the real estate, but also manage the business that's housed on the property. Not dissimilar from Miss Bramani's, Roosters, you name it.
I noticed in the mailing, the certified letter, the 120 people, whoever got it. So you also did not include the budget, the proposed budget in your mailing, correct?
The proposed budget was not included in the mailer.
Is there some reason why it wasn't?
No, other than we were still working with the steering committee on presenting a draft proposal of the budget that's in front of, that all of you received last week. So again, as Aaron mentioned during his speaking points there, it is a draft budget. We don't know exactly where the boundaries are going to be. We don't know that final number that will come in. We're based on the estimates and the proposed levy of 1.15%. We believe that about $315,000 would be generated by the SSA, asking for the city to contribute $150,000 annually for the 5 years, and all of the community partners that have voluntarily committed financial contributions are on top of that. So until the organization is created and SSA is established and the governing board of directors signs off on a final work plan and budget, we won't know that exact number and exactly where all dollars will go. But the budget that was presented is a representation based on the needs, the wants for more services downtown, services, activities. And as Alderman Parker said on the phone, it's consistent with a lot of the things that he's been hearing over the past 5-6 years.
Okay, so my question's about the proposed budget. So is this proposed SSA under the direct control of the chamber or the city?
So there is a service provider that needs to be part of the proposal when setting up an SSA. So while the city may collect, eventually see the dollars from the SSA, they would be administered to the nonprofit, in this case, the Chamber Affiliate Place Management Organization, and its board of directors to decide and to actually invest those funds in services. So the city would not be paying for the services that would be provided by the Downtown Place Management Organization. The city, the county and the city would receive the property tax dollars in the quarterly installments and give that line item to the downtown service provider.
So theoretically, it could be another service provider doing the place management.
What's in the proposal, and steering committee members can add in here as well, is that it is a chamber affiliated place management organization.
So in the Quad Cities, there's 4 that have it, correct? East Moline, Davenport, and Bettendorf. And they're split 2 and 2, correct? So Moline and East Moline run it in-house, where Davenport and Bettendorf run it through the chamber, correct?
East Moline both have Main Street entities. And there's also a couple of business improvement districts in Davenport, the Hilltop as well as the Village of East Davenport. The chamber manages at this time the Downtown Davenport Partnership and the Downtown Bettendorf Organization, which is the newest business improvement district and urban place management entity of its kind in the Quad Cities.
I'd also like to remind my colleagues on City Council that it was the recommendation of the city's / mayor's task force, which eventually evolved into the steering committee that has come before us today, that we explore creating the Downtown Place Management Organization with the chamber. We explored doing it our own, creating a third-party nonprofit organization, and it was the recommendation of our downtown business community to pursue this model.
So do you have any more detailed notes explaining the budget that you presented? So I'm curious as to how you arrived.
I presented the budget, so could you help give me some color on what you mean in detail notes? You have line items, dollar amounts. What more would you like?
Well, how were the budget numbers arrived for each of these categories and items? So for example,
As with every budget ever created since the beginning of time, they're estimates of what we think they would cost, and it started with what we thought were services that are currently lacking in the downtown.
I understand that. So, for example, it looks like there's 2 full-time staff positions.
Correct.
So what are the salaries for those positions?
Why do we need to discuss salaries? You have the budget line amount.
I personally take offense to your comments back to Alderperson.
We're talking.
No, I understand, but you're.
This is what the city has.
I do not mean to be
Very
disrespectful. These are
condescending,
theoretical
and I do not
employees. I
appreciate the
can't
tone of
speak.
you trying to belittle a council person for asking. I don't like how you're referring.
When we
No,
prepare
I said
our
I cannot
budgets-
speak to a theoretical employee's salary.
Okay.
There's a line amount for salaries. I
Maybe
haven't
it's just
hired.
the way you're saying it, sir.
So why did
There's
the
been many
executive
things the way they've been
director's
said.
salary go up $10,000?
One at a time. Thank you.
So the executive director's salary went up $10,000 from the budget we were shown last year. So last year it had $85,000 for that position. This year it has $95,000.
Yeah. I can't speak to what you saw last year. The first budget I worked on is
I'm
the one you have.
asking Jack.
I'm saying so. Jack wants to speak to the change.
And my superiors at the chamber can speak to this if needed. But I believe that is, the salaries presented fall within the salary bands at the chamber for those types of positions. They also are aligned with what the market bears for similar types of positions in other communities in the Quad Cities. There is a base salary and then a percentage. We provided those numbers to council. We provided those numbers to Todd. I was asked about it last week, and we shot back the responses.
Okay, well, that doesn't really answer my question. So are these salaries in line with city positions, and have these been reviewed by our HR department? No. Okay. So how many part-time positions are there?
We don't know that answer yet either. There are different ways of working with the downtown cleaning team, the ambassadors. There's different ways of going about that. We can work through an employment service agency, similar to what the Downtown Davenport Partnership does. And there are part-time employees that are hired through that relationship for the daily downtown beautification and maintenance work. Again, we don't really know exactly what the full picture will be with the community navigators. Are we going to partner with Project Now and Christian Care versus maybe hiring someone on our team? And so, again, just as it's a draft budget proposal, until we actually have the mechanism in place, creating a true entity, these are some of the things that they'll be solidifying before we go live.
So if you don't know, how did you come up with the budget numbers then? You had to have come up with at least theoretically so many
Based on
positions.
hours for the ambassadors, if that's a question, based on hours per week that we wanted to invest into those specific services. And so I believe it was somewhere around the mark of 120 hours per week as a collective, investing in the downtown maintenance, beautification, everything from cleaning graffiti off the walls to picking up the trash-strewn streets, sidewalks, alleyways, you name it in that department.
Potentially 3 full-time positions. Clean and safe ambassadors. That's how you arrived at the number?
Not through full-time, just looking at what other
Well,
downtown placement,
we do
looking at
full-time
the
equivalents here at
hours there of what other downtown place management organizations and, okay.
Okay. So the $55,000 in the budget, is that potentially a contract for services?
For
the
the
budget?
community navigators? Yes. Well, to be determined, if it's a person, people, or if it's a contract for services, as if we would partner with Christian Care, Project Now, for example. That's been discussed. Directors of both organizations were not able to attend tonight. However, we had great discussions about that, initial conversations. And they did say that they were interested. They liked that this was a 5-year program because they were not interested in partnering if it was just going to be a year or, 6-month to a year pilot program. But knowing that there would be enough time to get somebody in position, trained, to fill that position, they were excited about the potential there.
Okay, so the line item for facade and interior grants, $60,000. So how many grants can you make from $60,000? And is there a cap on the amount of the grant?
Most likely be similar to the city's program, but this would be a flexible program in addition to what the city provides. And so, again, this is based on a program that the Downtown Davenport Partnership has, the Downtown Bettendorf organization has. I can't remember exactly how many grants the Downtown Bettendorf organization gave out, but I believe their program is $50,000. And they were able to leverage $250,000 plus in total investments through that program this past year.
Well, then you have a design assistance grant.
Yep, that's in direct response to entrepreneurs who are looking to open a business or do business in downtown Rock Island. And are looking for some assistance to do some drawings, to work with the Community Economic Development Department to really dig into the details of what needs to happen with the specific space. And that's something that does not exist in Rock Island at this
So
time.
how many grants can you make from $5,000? And is there a cap for those type of grants?
Again, it's a draft number. When we get to the point of standing this up, we'll need to solidify all of the different policies and procedures with each program.
Okay, so an entrepreneur grant, you have $10,000. How many grants can you make from that? And do you have a cap on that?
Same response. These programs were modeled after what some of the programs are in the Downtown Davenport Partnership has implemented and have been successful. And so, again, there's a limitation there. We've heard from entrepreneurs and business owners who are wanting to start up in downtown Rock Island specifically, and there hasn't been that type of funding available, a flexible, forgivable grant that would allow them to do XYZ to help them get off the ground.
Okay. I just don't understand how you arrived at the numbers for these
Numbers
grants.
specifically, they're about half of what's offered at the Downtown Davenport Partnership, considering we have about half, maybe less than half, of the budget of that downtown organization.
And Bill, what's the value of Davenport's downtown property versus ours?
186 million, right? Am I accurate?
Versus ours?
I think it was 186 million from the last article I'd read.
Kyle Carter. I'm Executive Director of Downtown Davenport Partnership, as well as Vice President of Place Management for the Chamber as a whole. To answer your question, it is right around 200 million. That's a good estimate, 185, 200, depending on how you value Mid-American as a utility. But we have about a $1.5 million budget.
Right, but what's our value of property?
Jack,
You're
can answer
comparing
that.
us to Davenport.
Yeah,
If
so
Davenport is
there's
200
also different assessment that we use. So in Illinois, we have the equalized assessed value. It's a third of the fair market value. So for the total downtown, it's right around 30 million. So if you look at fair market value terms, that's about 90 million.
And just real quick to answer your earlier question, as far as like facade grants, 60,000. Our program has a maximum of 15,000 match that it does. You can edit that. Sometimes we give 5, sometimes we give 2,500. That's just the maximum. So the total number just depends on what businesses come forward, what the need is. It can be, as many as, 10 grants. It could be as few as 5. It just depends on the need. But the dollar amount is, that is being proposed here, we'll be able to do a lot. You could move the needle for sure with that dollar amount.
Thank you. Okay, getting back to the clean and safe ambassadors, what experience do these ambassadors have to have?
Clean and safe
ambassadors coming to you.
Experience.
My apologies, I thought that was for Jack. So, it's very minimal. It's very basic cleaning services. We're talking about, picking up trash, making sure that windows are wiped down, things of that nature. So it's, generally basic level work. It doesn't require a whole lot of training. Most of the training that we do is just to make sure that people understand the mission, that, this is an organization that is here to serve the stakeholders of downtown, and that they realize that they fit into a bigger picture of what we're trying to accomplish.
Thank you. Does the budget reflect, that you need more maybe in the summer and maybe less in the winter?
Yep, you have to tinker with that all the time. Summer's always heavier than winter. The budget does reflect that. If anything, I think there's enough flexibility here to make it work. Like I said, we're operating on a much larger budget in downtown Davenport, but ultimately the core of your question was, did you just pull this out of thin air? The answer is no. I've got years of experience, 17 to be exact, in downtown Davenport, 10 of which I ran the department. I know what it takes to run a clean and safe. I know how much it costs, and I know how much you got to pay people. Based on that knowledge and based on the Chamber's experience, I was able to help Jack build a budget that made sense, that I thought was feasible. And based on my many years of experience, I firmly believe there's enough dollars amount in that draft that you guys could have a good, robust team and make it work.
Okay. So moving on to the supplies line item, you have in there ATV. How much does an ATV cost?
So that, we just basically need something to get people around on, whether it's a gator, golf cart, could be anything. Gators are 25 grand, in case you were wondering. Probably more now. Golf carts are less. It just depends on what you need. You just need a vehicle. So we had a line item in there to make sure that there was something that we could get people around on.
Okay, so,
In addition, potentially working with city departments, public works, parks. We've had many conversations with both departments about, we'll need to hammer out exactly how we all work together. What are the responsibilities of the Downtown Place Management Organization? What are the responsibilities of public works? What are the responsibilities of parks? But I believe, and Mike and John can speak to this, but it's been very collaborative in nature since the beginning of this contract. And I'm confident that we'll find many different ways to work together and supplement each other's staffs and resources and teams. That's the beauty of this. It's about pumping more resources into the downtown than what currently is being provided, with the overall goal of cleaning up our downtown, creating a more healthy, vibrant environment.
okay, so the advocacy and promotions budget, you have 15,000 for marketing and 15,000 for events. What would each of those marketing and events include? To me, those numbers seem low compared to other numbers.
Yeah, they are. That's a good, I'm glad you noticed that. One of the sacrifices that we had to make in building this budget was that there isn't enough money to go around to have big festivals. One of the reasons you see alternating currents and, well, although I will say that Rock Island is participating in that, but you see larger festivals in downtown Davenport because we can afford to host them. Festivals are outrageously expensive. They're also very risky. This organization's core needs were clean the streets, make sure there's business assistance, and those were the absolute number one and two things. This budget reflects what this steering committee and the property owners said. Clean it up, make sure we have good incentives, let's be presentable, bring people in. As festivals are awesome at doing that, we cannot afford that on this budget, and therefore you do not see that. The minimum that you see there will be used to do some like smaller one-off events like, for instance, in downtown Davenport, we have like K-Square, where you have small spaces, and you guys have the district here. You can buy a cheap band, guy with a guitar, put up a food truck. Those are the kind of dollars that you can use, 10, 15 grand. You can do a few of those in a year and make an impact very cheaply. So there is some event work, but festival, the big stuff, absolutely not. And that's why you see that line item the way that it is.
Okay.
And part of that, too, just to add to Kyle, is a response from pandemic, too. There is a call for more intimate experiences, special events, programs that happen more regularly, that build that culture, that community, versus maybe one event that happens once a year. And so there are some benefits to that as well.
So I saw that there's nothing in the budget for what I would call either professional security or to help supplement the police officers.
Sure. So we've talked ad nauseum at this point about the community navigator role. That's where business improvement districts thrive. We are not the police. We will never replace them. We are not security in that sense. We are the liaison between those two worlds, because when the private sector communicates with the public sector, we have great relationships with folks like community navigators and cleaners that are interacting with PD. We can both be way more effective. But under no circumstance will creating a business improvement district replace the role of the police ever.
I just want to comment that earlier when we heard Terry Tilka and Jose and Sarah speak, safety is, and I've heard this from numerous people too, who want to go downtown for events or businesses, whatever. Safety is the number one priority and concern. Okay, getting back to the budget. So why is the chamber charging the city an almost $70,000 management fee, and how did you get to that number?
Sure. So one of the big benefits and the whole point of working within the chamber organization is so that you guys can benefit from all the experience and other skills that are brought to the table. For instance, my nearly 2 decades of experience in business improvement districts. I am a certified leader in place management through International Downtown Association. The chamber still has a CFO function, a CEO function. You'll see Jennifer here in the back from our communications department that would help with marketing. All these different assets are what you're getting when you get this package. So one of the reasons that you didn't go and try and build a brand new organization or potentially do it on your own is that there is enormous benefit to being part of this family. You get a lot of other benefits. So when you see that number, Alderman, it's a reflection of the fees that are charged back for office, for my time, for all these different individuals and their contribution to what ultimately they are doing the heavy load here in downtown Rock Island, but our support staff can really elevate and make the work better.
So, but the city has bookkeeping and HR capabilities, so we're having to pay for that even though we have that in-house. Now, you also mentioned marketing. Earlier, there was a marketing line item, but in your management fee, you're also charging us for marketing. Is that like double?
So that's the
billing
difference
us?
between just staff time versus like to be able to do a campaign or actually buy ads, different line items for that.
Okay. The specific private donations that have been pledged, were any of these entities promised anything in return for their contribution?
No, all we've been trying to promise is that we want to make downtown Rock Island a better place. And at the end of the day, this is the private sector coming to the public sector at its request, because we were asked through contract to do this work, because we want to do this work. And the people that do this work for a living do it because we care, because we want downtown Rock Island and the Quad Cities to be a successful place that I want to continue living. And as downtown Rock Island goes, so does the rest of the Quad Cities. If we have a weakness in any element of our region, it's a weakness for all of us. So I want to reiterate that the people that are here today suggesting and making this recommendation are here with the best intentions humanly possible. We are trying to be your partner. This is a partnership, a public-private partnership. We can't collect taxes. When we govern this, you will be at the table. Every board of directors of every one of our place management organizations includes city representation. In Davenport, the city administrator, city economic development director, and the third ward alderman eternally, forever, sit as members of our board so that the left hand knows what the right hand is doing. The model is set up to be transparent perpetually. And so I want to be crystal clear about that. I share your vision for transparency. I think it's necessary for this to be successful, and we welcome it.
I share your passion, but I am also a business owner, and I will get taxed $4,344.92 a year, okay?
Correct.
And I am all for an SSA. I want what every single solitary person in this room wants, and I promise you that. My problem is a $95,000 position, a $70,000 position, and $69,750.
Sure.
That is $234,750.
Yep.
Or 44% of this budget does not do anything to the downtown. It does not put trees in there. It does not clean streets. You are selling hope. Everyone in here is here for hope because we want the best for this city. That is why they are up here. That's why Aaron's so passionate. That's why I'm so passionate. To charge us $70,000 is crazy, in my opinion.
Sure. Let me clarify that those dollars do include benefits.
It still comes out of the SSA. I'm
Right.
still paying that.
Right. But I want to be crystal clear. When people hear the word $95,000 salary, that is inclusive of benefits. That's not take-home pay.
It doesn't
specifically.
matter. It still comes out.
I think
So
it's a
let's
point of clarity I wanted to make.
Fair.
Secondly, we're all here in the business of hope. Because if we're not, we all need to pack up and go home. It is going to cost money, and we must invest to dig ourselves out of where we are and get where we want to go. It will not be free. And if the city looks at our budget and feels like it can do this more effectively, it's your prerogative to do so. However, the private sector has come today to say, we think this model does make sense. We think these dollars make sense, but it is up to you as the council to make this decision. It's not our decision to make. We're simply here recommending and saying we are a willing partner. If you are, if these budgets need edited, they can be. But ultimately, the council will decide how it wants to move this downtown forward. And but not for us, then who and when? And that's not our decision to make. It is yours. But we're here to put our best foot forward, and the ball will be in your court going forward.
I have a question.
Yes.
Who makes the determination or the hiring decision for the operations director? Who will do the hire for that?
So staffing will be managed by the chamber. That's part of the agreement. That's the case with everything. So staffing is always done in-house. That doesn't mean that we don't take lots of recommendations and have open ears for that, but that would be managed internally.
And I would assume that would be the same thing for the executive director position?
Executive directors are unique in that boards usually have a lot more say-so in that process. In this case, it's unique in that we already have Jack established as a director for this organization. If that were to ever change, or Jack were to leave and we were to go back out there, I think it'd be really important that the board weigh really heavily on that, and it would not just be done in a silo at all. That would be a long conversation that I would want to make sure that has a lot of input.
So, did you ever consider a flat tax per parcel, especially for the first year? Because this might be more palatable to property owners and businesses who are coping with recovering from the pandemic, inflation at over 9% and climbing, and the fact that our economy's in a recession?
So the dollar amount is not expected to increase. As far as the 1.15%, that is flat, to my knowledge, over the 5-year span.
And like per parcel, $300 per parcel.
We're bound by the legal mechanisms of Illinois, as you are. If I don't know that the SSA is capable of that, I honestly don't know.
Yes, I found ones that do it.
So again, I think that's where city legal could be helpful and others. But as it stands, we've got the proposal based on what we thought was best. Just like the borders conversation and a couple other things that have been discussed tonight, the final version can look different than what you've heard tonight, and anything can always be discussed.
Can I say something real quick?
Sure, yeah.
As a property owner and as a business owner, I think 1.5 is fair. I think that we got to get back to a society that when you have more, sometimes you have to give more. Those who don't have high property tax, they won't pay as much. So everybody's putting in their fair share. As far as security and safety, I noticed you mentioned that earlier. This liaison, these boots on the ground, will also help free police officers to actually follow the hard crime, the shootings, the robberies, versus the nuances that are going on downtown, which is panhandlers and people just drinking outside with nothing else to do. So this is a win-win. If we're willing to invest, we're not even asking you to foot the bill. I don't understand why there's so much, I understand having to get the details. Details can be worked out. I guess I don't understand the hostility of it, of the questions, because if we're standing here and we're invested, it should be open arms. We're here because we're invested, and we're here because we're here for Rock Island, not just for downtown, not just for our properties. We're here because we're here for Rock Island as a whole.
And I am as well, but I represent a larger constituency. And even the people in the proposed SSA, the majority of them were only notified 2 weeks ago about this coming tax that could potentially be enacted in 2 more weeks' time on August 8th. That is like, in my mind, taxation without representation. So I am just trying to...
Everyone has the same information. Is whether or not they choose to read that, open up that letter, take that email, take that phone call.
Other people known about it for more than a year, sometimes 2 years. So, when I ran, and many of my colleagues ran on fiscal accountability and transparency.
Right.
So that is all we're trying to do, to find out the details, because there's not a whole lot of details in that presentation in terms of what we need to be able to make an informed decision on in order to vote on August 8th.
Okay, so if there's anything else that you would like to know, I'm sure there's probably a million more questions. If you could get that in an email and send it out to all of us, I promise you'll get everything that you want, Ms. Judith.
I want this on the record.
Nicole, I absolutely understand where you're coming from.
I mean, but it's it's not that we're rushing due to transparency. We have a timeline so that we can have this done before the end of the year so that we can get this going.
Let's talk about the timeline.
The downtown Rock Island is dying.
Judith, can you give me a second?
Sure,
I'm just
absolutely.
going to give you a real-life example.
And I know you mentioned earlier about the client, that technically the chamber is the client. Well, I'm the client. You are a representative of me and my tax dollars. So I need you to understand that, and I need you to respect that. And you have not done so.
Nicole, I just want to give you an example, and this is real life. This happened to me yesterday. I played golf with a gentleman yesterday. He had his business down here in Rock Island for 73 years, and he said no one came and talked to him until he got a letter. He was actually here today and left because he didn't want to stay. So that's just the question where we come from. We have a business that has been in Rock Island for 73 years, and no one comes and talks to him. He just gets a letter in the mail.
So
That's kind of dirty.
Sure. So
You have to meet with everyone, Jack.
So
You were on your job
it's there-
456 days.
So it is impossible to meet with everyone, number one.
Then why did you send 120 letters?
To make sure that we contacted everyone and gave it our absolute best effort to make sure that there's only so much time between the time that we began this and the time that we stood here today to literally meet in person with one guy who's doing this work. Therefore, the letter was necessary to make sure we touched base with everybody in some official fashion at least once. Now, I am perfectly willing to say that we could do more and can do more. We have a very long timeline. Literally, December is the real final marker on this timeline. Ample time. Hell, there's even an official petition you can do to oppose it. I mean, there's tons of time between now and December. So the August timeline is simply stating that if we vote in August, it's essentially establishing the process to begin, at which point it can be killed between then and December if, in fact, it's not what you want. It is a very long process for that very reason. They made it in state statute that way to intentionally allow lots of time for people to talk and oppose. So I don't think we're rushing. We're basically saying in August, do we even want to take the first step? Now, if you don't want to take the first step, this is going to be a short conversation. However, if we at least say yes in August, it gives us the rest of the timeline to ferret out the rest of these questions, opposition, et cetera. Again, that ball is in your court, not ours. Our job was to do the exploration. We did it. We got what we thought was an acceptable amount of interest for you to consider it, which again, by national standards of 25%, to consider it. Doesn't mean that that's what people always approve. I mean, to your point, if you want 51%, that's your call. We got as much as we could in the timeline we had in writing. So in Davenport, for instance, this took a very long time too, many years ago, and the last time we did our renewal in 2008. And it's just every community is a little different. But at the end of the day, the private sector came today to say we want to be a part of the solution. If this isn't how you want to do it, it'll be disappointing for us because we really believe in this idea. And I believe that there's ample time to answer the questions that have been posed today. But we believe in this. We do think it's the best option on the table. And if we don't do this, the city of Rock Island has some very challenging things to solve. And this is a model that has been proven to work across the United States. And we think we want to do it, but we appreciate where you're coming from.
Did you have more questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's talk about the timeline. I wish the timeline slide was back up. So, for the majority of the property owners, they have just found out about, well, they don't know really about the August 8th. They didn't know about the July 25th session. The City Council only found out about this tight timeline last week, but I'm having to go back and forth between two sets of notes.
I think it is just important to note, too, the process is working. Although we weren't required to send out the mailers and contact 100%, it is working. I took 3 calls today from property owners who received the mailer and wanted to talk more about this. I received an endorsement form from a property owner over the weekend. We didn't even have a conversation. Now, that's rare. That's the only time that's happened. as Aaron said, most sit-down meetings, there's a natural narrative or consistent narrative to each meeting, but it is working. We are hearing from property owners who are reading the mailer. Tom is the perfect example of that. Saw the number to contact and contacted us. So it is important to note that we have been working to meet with property owners and to contact them to hear back from them. So Bill, after this meeting, if that property owner, you're willing to share who that is, it'd be great to go and meet with him.
I would say the damage is done, so.
Jack, just for your benefit, because we have the media here and I'm sure that this is going to be, the conversation, the content of this conversation is not going to be, it's going to be very open. If someone living in that proposed SSA wanted to contact you, would you prefer that they contact the chamber, contact City Hall? What number would be the best number that they
My
can contact
information is
you?
on those mailers. So my office phone, which is also listed on the City of Rock Island's website,
Okay.
on the Downtown Steering Committee page. I believe there's my number as well as my email for folks to get in touch with me. Email is best, and then I can return a phone call.
I think.
But phone number is there too.
Is the copy of that mailing on the downtown page on the city website?
Yeah, it sure can be. We'll get it done tomorrow.
So, okay.
Yeah, and again, we want this to be as successful as you do. And please don't take this, we're asking tough questions because we get tough questions. And again, we want to move forward, or at least I want to move forward, to make downtown more vibrant, more profitable for everybody. Currently, I think our downtown has gotten a very bad reputation of being unsafe because if you look at the activities down there, they're not violent crimes. You know, people aren't getting attacked down there. Of course, you have people that are a nuisance. That's fine. You know, we'll deal with that one person at a time. But we've had a very bad, we got a very bad reputation that really was not called for. And hopefully we have a plan in place to turn that cart around.
Yeah, and you know what, you're right. You know, downtown Rock Island has incredible bones, incredible people. I think if there's anything we can all agree on, I hope it's that. I want to close out real quick. This is getting long. The adopted timeline is simply to make sure that tax dollars arrive in time to fund the organization next year. That's it. There's no nefarious plan here. We literally, if we miss this, the tax dollars won't arrive in time for there to be an organization next year. Simple as that. And so if we miss this timeline, just know that that will be the case. The contract with the chamber ends in December. I think you had kind of alluded to that earlier, Alderman Gilbert, of, you know, why, just timeline total. So if that expires or it is not renewed, or if this gets pushed, that creates a lot of conflict for you guys. When people say, you know, how long is this going to take? We're going to add at least another year onto this process. I think perhaps there's some legalese that I don't know that could make it expedite, but I want to be very clear that this timeline is simply a reflection of trying to receive dollars by next fiscal year, because you guys are on calendar year, not June to July, and that is the whole genesis of how we arrived at this conclusion.
Did you have some more questions?
Can I make a statement?
Yes, you can. Go ahead, Moses.
I just want to say, you know, I'm in support of the SSA. This is for Jack, you know, and Aaron and Nicole, thank you for your hard work. The concern I have, or just the comment I want to make, and this is for Jack, if you can keep us informed of everything that's going on, because I had a lot of residents who are on the boundary of this SSA, and they're very concerned about the tax that's going to be imposed on them. I didn't have any information to give because we didn't receive this proposal until last week. So I was sitting there lost. And it's the same problem we have sometimes when our staff does. We got to stay informed because our constituents find out before we find out when things like this is happening. I didn't know a letter was being sent out. I was caught off guard when the individual, my resident, called me and asked me about this. So if you can just keep us in the loop of what's going on, you will get, you know, a lot more support from us, and we won't have to have a lot of these questions that are, you know, asked today. It's just the fact that we received it so late, so we didn't have the information to really
Moses, thanks for your comment. Alderman Robinson, excuse me. This goes for Bill and Alderman Robinson and any other council members who may come across a property owner, or someone who asks a question about this. I'm 100% accessible. You can forward them my cell phone. I'm not going to put it on a flyer, but you can forward them my cell phone, and I'm happy to take a text message, a call, an email. I responded to a property owner with a question about this the other night, in the middle of the night. Woke up in the middle of the night. Somebody had texted me. I responded. Try to be 100% accessible. And so just so it's on record, again, if there's a property owner, someone who has a question about this, please forward my contact information. Alderman Robinson, I'm sorry, when we had met, you, me, Aaron, Nicole, I thought we had talked about some of that process of sending out mailers to contact 100%. Again, contact information's on the City of Rock Island's website on our Downtown Steering Committee page. And all of our meeting minutes are recorded there as well. So give me a call.
Okay, Judith, you have
Yeah, so
more?
we're getting back to the timeline. So I just discovered 2 days ago that the city even changed and approved city council meeting date to meet the statutory requirements to establish the SSA. City Council approves the annual calendar of meeting dates, and this was changed on the city website. It's in your presentation, so I don't know who or where this approval came from. I questioned the city manager. He told me it must be a mistake. I used to be the city clerk. I don't think it was mistake because the dates had to be deliberately changed in order to meet the deadlines for filings required by the statute and to ensure the tax levy paperwork is filed by the county deadline. Otherwise, according to our published calendar of city council meeting dates, we would miss the deadlines and we'd not be able to file for the tax levy in time to collect SSA taxes for 2023. I'm not sure if anybody wants to own up to that, but that's what's going on. It was pushed to the very last minute so that we're rushed and we're forced to make a decision without having sufficient time to vet the proposal, make changes to the proposed ordinance for maybe some things that we're more in favor of that might be more or might be better for the residents, et cetera, or like Alderwoman Swanson stated, different rates. I am in favor of downtown revitalization and place management. I am not in favor with how this process has played out. And when I ran for office, it was during COVID. People weren't answering their doors. So I literally cold called people on my voter list. And even though it's the third ward, big concern of the people was the downtown. Everybody feels like they own the downtown. It's a part of them. So there is a passion, a concern for getting things right finally. My biggest problem is there has not been full transparency, and that has been very disappointing.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody have any other questions? We beat up just about everything here, I think. And a couple quick comments I'll make is that, you know, the city of Rock Island, and I think other cities too, but have had very good success with public-private partnerships. And so whether it's the chamber, whether it's a separate organization, yet to be determined, but at the same token is we've had success with public-private partnerships. And that's using private dollars and leveraging along with the public dollars. It's not just one organization, it's private dollars with public dollars. And the public is willing, at this point, whether we're willing to put up to 150 or whatever that number ends up being, but the private sector in this specific area is willing, a number of them, I'm not saying everyone, but a number of them are willing to put up additional money for this. Just like Friends of Hallberg, just like the Friends of Douglas Park, and those areas, a lot of dollars have been put in there, a lot of private dollars in those things, and the city hasn't scrutinized it like we have this one.
But this is a
And-
potential 5-year contract.
Whether it's a 5-year deal, those Friends of Douglas Park and Hallberg University have been going on a lot longer than that. And
10-year contracts.
10-year
Got a 10-year contract with Friends of
10-year
Hallberg.
contracts. And the issue, and so the issue is, once again, put yourself in the shoes of business owners and building owners. They're used to acting and reacting a lot quicker than this. The bureaucracy and red tape and sometimes that we just bog things down, we miss the opportunity. Its opportunity goes right on by. And then when we finally said, okay, it's a good deal, too late. The opportunity's not there. The business climate's not there. The business owners, the building owners are not saying, I invested my money, I'm not interested in investing anymore. I'm changing and moving my investment someplace else. And so to continue to bog this down, and whether this is considered a tight schedule or not, and whether we even change dates, I would be all willing to change every date from here on out of the council meetings if it got it done on time so we can implement this to help the building owners, to help the businesses survive. And that's what we got to keep on looking at. We keep on sitting there saying, does everybody know? Does everybody know? In a lot of cases, not everybody knows. When they voted for us, not everybody, 100% of the votes were out there. And we're still speaking for them. We're still raising taxes, raising water rates for 100% of the city, but not 100% of the city voted for us. And so you're not going to get everybody informed. You're not going to get everybody to sit there and give an opinion one way or the other. There's out-of-town owners of some of these buildings. They just don't care. We have some people that own buildings downtown that don't care. And we need to work on addressing that. But we need to put some of the power into the private citizens doing it, not the public. It's not our job to dictate every dollar that's spent, whatever organization is put together. It's not our job to dictate where all that money goes and to figure out exactly all the devil's detail and who they hire and how many they hire and everything else. It's our job to help the businesses and residents have a good place to live, work, and play. And that's what we got to consider. And it's their dollars. They're putting more dollars in than the city's putting in. And you got to remember, the city, when the city put the city money is, that's taxpayers' money. That's not city money, it's taxpayers' money. And so how can we make it better for them? And that's what we've got to consider. And we've got to be a lot more nimble and move quicker than sometimes that we do. And unfortunately, a number of municipalities, a number of public entities are that way, and it's frustrating to me, but I try to work with it and live with it and make sure that we do the fiduciary right responsibility. But we cannot manage every dime that is moves through this building or is committed. We just can't. We've got to move, and we sometimes have to move quicker than what we like. I don't want to repeat, but that's, I guess, my 2 cents in this situation, is that if we miss this opportunity, I'm not sure that it comes to us again. Yes, we can probably do an SSA a year from now, but will it be as productive as it is now? Will we have the commitment out of the private citizens that we have right now that are willing to donate their time free of charge to help steer this? And that, to me, is the most important, is the citizens, the building owners, the people that have skin in the game are willing to help manage this on their dime. And we've got to allow, in my opinion, that to happen, just like they do in Hallberg, just like they do in Douglas, and there are potentially others. Whether it be the library foundation and what they do and everything else. We don't sit there and shouldn't dictate every dollar and dime that they spend or where it goes. So I guess I apologize, but I get passionate about it, just like everybody else does with theirs.
Well, Mayor, I would probably say that everyone up on the council here, I don't think anybody's really opposed to the SSA. I kind of think that's kind of where your comments were directed, and I don't think that's it at all. I just think that the city's got a really bad past history of not looking at things and not asking questions sometimes, and I think we talk about things moving. Heck, we all been in the city long enough, some things just never move at all. So
my point exactly.
Right, but what I'm saying is, so don't because the comments, because questions were asked, sometimes tough, maybe there's some exchanges made, it does not mean that the city council is against an SSA, and I kind of felt like that's how you were
And I'm not taking that as the council's against it. Maybe the timeline and the patience and everything else is maybe that I would direct it more to the council, but that's exactly right. If you ask, almost, if you got everybody downtown here, the building owners else, and ask them the question about trusting the government, trusting the city to enact and implement everything they've asked, we would not get a favorable survey. We talk about so many things and don't do them. Or we do them for 1 year, and then it dies because the focus changes someplace else. Or the council changes and the agenda changes. And we let the business owners down, or the business/building owners down, because we don't follow through on a regular basis. This is just like marketing and everything else. It's repetitive year after year after year. You gotta stick with it. It doesn't happen just one time.
Now, again,
So-
respectfully, we understand. And this council, which none of us were a part of, we've heard since I've been on council, because people didn't ask questions over Walmart and all this other stuff that doesn't happen or whatever. I would rather ask the questions, let the public know that at least, that the council's at least asking questions. It's not meaning we're against it, but I think that, I think we all want a vibrant downtown, but I just think that, and it's our responsibility to sometimes ask questions, and, maybe we go a little overboard sometimes, but I think we really hear it from constituents, and I think that it's, but I agree.
I don't want to repeat anything.
No, I agree. I agree with
It's
you.
Well, and
time
I-
to stop micromanaging.
I do want to say, I am 100% for an SSA. My biggest hang-up is I just want to make sure that the people both for and against it are allowed to have their say, because in this past year, 2 decisions have been made where the people against it were not given time to speak, and that's all I want.
Yeah, and I totally get, and I believe, I solely believe, truly believe, that in this schedule, there's time to do that if we make an effort at it.
Right.
If we make an effort at it, there is time for that. Just like we did the ARPA deal, if we make that effort, which we did, it's there. The time is there, the effort needs to be there maybe to finalize that and put it through. But the time schedule allows for that.
And that's just it. We have until December to make the
Correct.
final decision.
Correct. You make some decisions along the line that keep on, at least it tells the story that we're willing and wanting to continue down that path.
And I can tell you, I am absolutely for an SSA, and I own a business property down there. I own 2 of them. My main concern is giving 44 cents on the dollar to salaries and to the chamber. I want bang for the buck. I think every single solitary business owner just wants bang for the buck.
And I think, I agree, and that is still open and subject to, it's a draft, number one.
I get it.
Number 2, who managed the organization is still open. There's some that push for chamber, some that don't, but who manages it still potentially could be.
I want to clarify that this particular proposal that we're making is very specific, and it is,
For
in
the
fact,
chamber.
the chamber.
That's correct.
So I just want to be clear. And as far as the comment regarding salaries, we're in the people business. Most of what we do is knowledge economy. We're trading information. We're cleaning streets. This is people work, interacting with other folks. We don't make widgets. We don't build structures. We work with people, and it takes people to do that work, and therefore our operating will always be higher than our capital. I would love someday to see a capital budget in Rock Island like we see in Davenport, where I get $500,000 a year just to build infrastructure like light posts and flower baskets, et cetera. We have a small capital budget available here, but we're just not there yet. I mean, I'd love to give you a huge capital budget. Unless you want to make this SSA a lot more expensive, we ain't going to have it. The other alternative is for the city to contribute more. If we want to do more capital projects, there's a way to do that. We try to be really conservative. And you go to any other organization like mine, those percentages aren't going to look any different. We're in the people business, and that's where the cost comes.
I have a building in Moline that has an SSA. I don't pay to the chamber.
Right. That's a different proposal, not the one we're making today.
And I understand that. I'm just making it clear that it
Yeah.
can be done different ways
Yeah,
as well.
I understand that.
All right.
So
Yes.
Well, no, I need to make a correction to, I believe it was Alderman Poulos who said, well, we have until December to make this decision. No, November 7th is the last day for the second reading of the second ordinance that needs to be passed. And that date was changed. It has not been approved by City Council to change the date yet. Ordinarily, our date is November 14th, but that puts it past the statutory deadline.
If I could clarify that, the key deal on the deadline is getting the tax levy certified with the county, and that's the last Tuesday in December.
Thank you.
Okay.
Running out of time. I'm so sorry.
Yep. All right, so if we're, everybody okay moving on? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are on item number 16.
Claims for the week of July 1 through July 7th, 2022, in the amount of $340,216.18. For the week of July 8th through July 14th, 2022, in the amount of $538,798.14. And payroll for the weeks of June 27th through July 10th, 2022, in the amount of $1,653,981.93.
Move to allow the claims and payroll.
Second.
Moved to second. Any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to make a correction. I think the number you gave was 216, was 340,216.18 when it's 340,218.18.
My apologies.
Okay, that's okay, just want to make it.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call.
Alderperson Gilbert?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Poulos?
Aye.
Healy?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Hurt?
Aye.
Item 17.
Report from the Public Works Department regarding a memorandum of agreement between the city and Augustana College to provide professional services related to the development of a lead service line material inventory with a budget not to exceed $113,500.
Move to authorize the city manager to execute the memorandum of agreement.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? I think it's a great partnership. Once again. Roll call, please.
Alderperson Gilbert?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Poulos?
Aye.
Healy?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Hurt?
Aye.
Item 18.
Report from the city clerk regarding a resolution approving the partial release of closed session minutes and the destruction of audio recordings from the same closed session meetings.
Move to approve the partial release of closed session minutes as recommended and adopt the resolution.
Second.
Moved to second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderperson Gilbert?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Poulos?
Aye.
Healy?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Hurt?
Aye.
Item 19.
Report from the city clerk's office regarding a request from Augustana College to use sound amplification on Saturday, August 28th, 2022, from 8 o'clock p.m. to 10 o'clock p.m. outside the lower quad of the Augustana campus.
Move to approve the sound amplification permit as recommended.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderperson Gilbert?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Poulos?
Aye.
Healy?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Aye.
Item 20.
Report received from the city clerk's office regarding a request from Alan Shea of CCKMA requesting sound amplification on Saturday, September 10th, 2022, from 5 o'clock p.m. to 10 o'clock p.m. for their annual Poker Run fundraiser event.
Motion to approve the sound amplification permit as recommended.
Second.
Moved to second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderperson Gilbert?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Poulos?
Aye.
Healy,
Aye.
Robinson, Hurt,
Aye.
I think that was an aye. I'm 20, we've already done item 21 unless there's really something key that somebody's
I
going
have a
to.
quick question of Todd. Have we settled on a special city council meeting yet to discuss the ordinance?
I don't think so unless Naomi works something out late in the
Not
day.
quite.
Yeah.
When will we have a draft ordinance?
Miles, do you got thoughts on that? Miles is working on it.
So as was discussed, there are two ordinances. The second is kind of an elaboration of the first. So the initiating ordinance, which is where the council, upon passage, formally triggers that 60-day statutorily required comment period, lays out basically just that there's a proposal to establish an SSA, what its boundaries are, the services to be provided, and what the tax levy proposed is. I have kind of like half a draft of that worked up. Describing the actual boundary takes a while to do, given the size, but it's kind of half completed. So hopefully within the next, week, I'll have something finished. So.
I'm not concerned with the boundaries, I'm concerned with the other language.
Yeah, would you kind of reiterate the key decision points? One is the purpose of the district, another is boundaries, another is the tax levy maximum.
Right.
And then the term of it.
Yes.
So those are things council can be kind of thinking about what you're comfortable with. I think what's proposed here is the 1.15 tax levy, 5-year
Right.
term for.
So as of right now, basically what you've seen in those proposals is what that draft ordinance would lay out for you to discuss.
So,
Will we need to vote on who services the agreement at that point?
No.
so my question is, are we going to have a special meeting before, in case we want to change any of those key terms? When is council going to be able to discuss that?
So I know I've responded to a poll on when that can be, so I've made my availability known, and I'm happy to have that discussion. I do want to point out, though, that like the first ordinance, the initiating ordinance, is just to say this is what's being proposed and the numbers and the boundaries and the services as we are considering them now. But the council, at the end of that 60-day period, if you've gotten feedback and you want to substantially alter any of those provisions, that's your authority and your call to change it. So let's say, and this is just a hypothetical, the feedback you received from folks was, we would like a smaller service area and a higher tax levy, so that the budget ended up being kind of the same, right? That's a theoretical feedback you could get, and you could make those changes if you wanted in the final version. So that's the purpose of that 60 days, is for you to get that feedback and then make adjustments in the final establishing ordinance.
The only adjustments you can't make are adding properties. You can delete properties, but you can't add properties.
And I believe that some of the rationale behind why the proposed boundary is so large is so that if it needed to be pulled back, that was possible.
Well, yeah, and you have to provide two different descriptions of the boundaries, the legal description and then the other description.
And clarify on the deadline, we can have that second ordinance passed anytime prior to the last Tuesday of December, correct?
Yeah, that last submission date that you mentioned, the final Tuesday, which is, I believe, December 27th, I think.
So do we, because of the timeline, are we forced to have the public hearing and then vote at that same meeting?
No,
I mean, could we have
no.
a public hearing like
So this
earlier?
is, so so I think it would be a very good and advisable thing for us to schedule the special meeting that's being discussed so that we can talk this out and get this feedback. The process for beginning and ultimately finalizing an SSA is entirely the council's responsibility, okay? So you've received a proposal. People are asking for this to be put in place. But it's your process to oversee and all of your decisions to make. The public hearing date in that proposed timeline happens to be on that, but actually statutorily what it talks about is it just has to happen within that time. Mr. Morrison?
No.
I'm not needing, there's nothing I need to comment on, I was just being prepared if I needed to.
Oh, okay. I saw you looked a little trigger happy. But if that wants, if
Because the 60 days kicks in after we hold the second reading of the first ordinance,
Correct,
right?
correct.
So you have to hold the public hearing within that 60-day time period, correct? But what you're saying is the second ordinance that does the final establishment does not have to happen at that same time and could be pushed back later? Is that what you're saying?
What I'm trying to clarify is that if there is a concern about waiting to hold that public hearing until the vote, the first reading on that second ordinance, we can adjust that timeline. I think what the city manager is also mentioning is we can adjust the city calendar if we need to move things around and make you all more comfortable. And it's your call if you want to have additional special meetings too, whether it's just to workshop this here in public amongst yourselves or to provide additional public hearings to get feedback. You're in the driving seat here. Now, if you look at the memo that I prepared and sent out to you through the city manager, you'll see the proposed timeline to be statutorily in line. But you can go above and beyond that and get more feedback if you wish.
Yeah, my concern is just where we have been before, that we have a public hearing, and then there's a group of people who are adamantly opposed to it, and then we have no time to process, think, react, because 3 items later, we're voting on it. That's what I want to avoid, is I want to have a public hearing at the council meeting prior to that November 7th
Understood.
vote.
So here's a suggestion I would make.
But that public hearing sounds like, so it's on the same night as the city council meeting, which
Yes.
makes things difficult,
Oh,
too.
I just want the public hearing not on the same night we
Right.
vote.
So,
Yes.
so here's a suggestion I would make. The city manager and I can sit down and we can work with legal to make sure we're in the right on this and put together some different options for building in more opportunities for both you as a council to workshop this among yourselves and also to afford more opportunities for people to give comment. I think it's also something that we can talk about, some different means to collect more information on this. I think ARPA has been a pretty good kind of learning experience on getting more public feedback. Perhaps we can put out a survey. Perhaps we can put out a poll. There is a lot of things that we can do that are above and beyond what is statutorily required. It's your call, okay? So I just don't want this council to think that you're not in the driving seat on this process, because you've received a proposal, you're getting a suggestion on what to do, but it's your decision. And if you want to hold more meetings, get more feedback, that's your call.
The thing I'm worried about, and I think my colleagues are feeling the same way, as long as we give the public the opportunity to come in and say, yes, we like this, or no, you're out of your biscuit eating mind, if the public comes, they come.
Right.
As long as we get that message out there to say, hey, this is your opportunity, and if you choose to take it, great. If you do not choose to take it, we gave you our best offer. Now, I assume then that you're trusting our collective intelligence to do the right thing.
And they have the ultimate ability to provide input. They can kill it by voting against it, 51% of them.
That's right. We always have that possibility.
I think Moses had something.
Go ahead, Moses.
So, Miles, who's over setting the boundary or redesigning or redrawing the boundary? I'm just concerned about those residents who are, homeowners. How would they truly benefit from the SSA?
Well,
See,
the
I know we
chamber,
stated
the
before
chamber.
that we tried to redesign that.
So I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you, Alderman Robinson, but I believe that you're asking me is how did the borders as currently proposed come to be? They basically follow the old TIF boundaries, because that was a good place to start. It is also corresponding, much like the TIF district did, to kind of the zoning district boundaries. So what you see there is both the central business zoning district and then the surrounding community business district. But again, during that feedback period that is required by statute, if folks who are on the periphery of the district said, hey, I know my house is a zoning nonconformity or whatever, but it's still just my house. I'm not a business owner, and I'm concerned that I will not get, good return on payment into this, I'd really like to be cut out. That is something the council can take as feedback, and then in the final establishing ordinance, if approved, could change the boundary on. So that is a part of the kind of feedback you can receive and the changes you can make in turn.
Would we have the?
Thank you, Luke.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I know it's probably hard to try to hear me because I'm, online, but I would just get in touch with Miles and try to, ask those questions so I can make sure he can clearly understand what I'm saying. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, you're just, the audio just isn't the best. I want to also just emphasize that I'm happy to talk with anybody just on the procedural steps of doing this and get any feedback you have, because this will be, again, a council-driven, a city-driven process now that you've received the proposal, right? If you want to talk through your concerns and any things you want to try to do to get more feedback, we can certainly work through that and try to come up with something. But I also just want to say to you, I shared the same concern about, pushing things out another year and losing momentum. We do have some folks who are willing to step up and try to do something good, and I'm not sure if we push things out another year that momentum will stick around.
I don't think
So I would just put
anyone's-
forward that as a concern that I have.
So I feel like my question still wasn't answered. Are we going to have a special meeting to discuss these terms before the August 8th meeting and the agenda? I mean, you can postpone publishing the agenda up till Saturday at like 5 o'clock.
Yeah, we'll schedule a special meeting. We may get to a point where we can't get everybody, and we'll get as many people as we can. I mean, it's a challenge at this point, is finding a time that works for everybody with vacations and things like that.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. We are at item 23.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, third.
I thought that was Darth Vader.
Fourth.
Moved in second. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Alderperson Gilbert.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Healy. Robinson.
Aye.
Hurt.